The Mercedes engine controversy, and Red Bull's involvement too, is far from over. In fact, on January 22nd, we're getting another major development in this saga. In today's video, we're breaking down all the latest updates on this situation and why the 2026 Formula One regulations are already giving the FIA headaches before the season even begins. Hey everyone, Mike here. Welcome back to Paddock Pulse. Let's start with what we know. There's a massive regulation change coming for 2026. And as always with rule changes, controversy follows because someone will find a creative solution. Here's where things stand right now. Red Bull appears to be taking a neutral position in all of this. Which is interesting, considering they're right in the middle of the storm. The word is that Red Bull is staying neutral because they haven't been able to figure out or replicate Mercedes' solution. They're also avoiding intense political battles under their new leadership with Lawson Mex. In this political fight, Mercedes customer teams, McLaren, Williams, and Alpine, obviously support whatever solution Mercedes puts in their engine. Why wouldn't they? It benefits them directly. That's 4 votes in Mercedes' corner, including Mercedes themselves. Meanwhile, teams not powered by Mercedes, Ferrari, RB, Cadillac, Honda, and Audi, are pushing hard for the controversial solutions to be banned. So we've got a split. 4 votes for Mercedes, 2 Red Bull teams staying out of it by remaining neutral, and everyone else putting serious pressure on the FIA. It shows just how fractured Formula One is internally right now. Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur has warned that it would be extremely dangerous for Formula One if an obvious regulatory loophole gets exploited, leading to a massive competitive imbalance. He's emphasizing that the FIA needs to close these gaps, especially with 11 teams competing. Here's the technical heart of the issue. The compression ratio limit is allegedly 16:1 when cold, but increases to 18:1 when hot, then returns to cold specs, which would pass FIA testing without officially violating the rules. Classic gray area territory. But this isn't a simple gray area that rival manufacturers can copy quickly. We're hearing estimates of a disproportionate advantage throughout the entire 2026 season. The competitive edge could be around 0.4 per lap. Obviously, that varies depending on several factors, as I mentioned in my recent video about the Aston Martin Honda situation. It could even be higher. We're talking roughly 15 horsepower or 12 kilowatts, plus better fuel efficiency, which impacts race strategy on its own. You can run a lighter car because it's more fuel efficient. Pretty significant stuff. Ferrari, Audi, and Honda sent a joint letter to the FIA, arguing that Mercedes' engine violates Article C 1.5, which deals with compliance at all times during competition, and they're demanding either prohibition or clarification of the solution. Quick sidebar for those unfamiliar with Formula One's political machinery. When a team protests to the FIA investigates and determines if the protest has merit. They'll go to the team being protested, in this case Mercedes, and say, "Hey, there's a protest about your engine, let us take a look." If everything checks out and there's nothing obviously wrong, they just tell everyone, "All clear, nothing to see here." But if there's something more controversial, they explain to everyone what's happening. "Look, Mercedes' solution is XYZ. We believe it's within the regulations." That's how teams discover what their rivals are doing. That's why you get this flood of protests, because when you protest and the FIA accepts it, they basically have to tell everyone what's going on. They share the data and say, "Here's what's happening, everyone's aware now, everything's fine." So it's a strategic play to discover what the competition is up to. Of course, if the FIA doesn't consider your protest valid, you're left in the dark about what's actually happening. The FIA initially approved Mercedes' solution, right? Because, as we discussed, it passes their tests. But now they're facing pressure from rivals, including suggestions to remove the compression ratio limit entirely. The FIA finds itself backed into a corner. This is a political conflict that's happened before and will happen again. And personally, I enjoy this particular aspect of Formula One's political gamesmanship. While Ferrari leads the opposition, the FIA has made a decision. On January 22nd, right before pre-season testing at the end of January, there will be an FIA meeting to define limits, verification methods, and possible power unit updates. There's discussion about mid-season regulation changes for 2026, despite the engine freeze, which could either level the playing field or penalize Mercedes. Here's the key question: what's the real issue here? What's the interesting angle? I don't think it's right to punish someone who's simply done better work. If Mercedes discovered a way to operate in the gray area, and gray area doesn't necessarily mean breaking the rules, if I were the FIA, I'd allow this solution to stand. I've already told you on this channel that the most likely scenario is that the FIA allows it for 2026 and then manages to ban it for 2027. That's the typical pattern in these situations. It's what happened, for example, with Mercedes' DAS system when it was introduced. So we have a meeting scheduled to find out what happens. That's the scenario, and the political battle in Formula One is absolutely fascinating right now. What do you think about all this? Drop your opinion in the comments below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to Paddock Pulse if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. I want to hear your take. Should the FIA allow Mercedes' solution to stand, or should they ban it before 2026? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.